Hi, I'm Evelyn.
I'm Alexis.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Anna.
We are the Marmalade Mermaids. This week, our flag named Hope, Season 2, Episode 5.
The Curse of Seafaring Life.
Thank you, Evelyn.
I'm excited that our episode is on hope today. And in the South, we have a meat and three when you go to eat barbecue. And the three is supposed to be vegetables, but it can even be macaroni and cheese counted as a vegetable, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to do hope in three. One way that I have felt a lot of hope in my life is connection to community and friends and family. And I was just working on something in my own life, and I had a friend come to me and ask if I would be her writing partner for a project. And that was a very hopeful act. It felt very expansive to have her share these ideas and for them to be things that we think about and write about together for the next however many years we're going to be doing this because it's taking a while. But it was very like that community connection hope. And then in my life, I've also felt a lot of cosmic hope where the universe is aware of me or God or something bigger than myself. And there was a recent time in my life when I said a prayer and I was trying to make some decisions. And I was given some words of comfort that were very specific to what I was asking for and giving me some direction that gave me peace of mind to know that when things were working out and when things were feeling positive, that that was a good decision. And it took away a lot of feelings of like, oh, but someone else is going to be mad at me now because I could feel that I was having help in this decision. And that was a hopeful thing for my future and for my current actions. And then my last way of feeling hope is difficult to pinpoint because it's something I experienced through art, poetry a lot of times, and painting and sculpture. But most recently, it was through music. There's some particular pieces of music, choral arrangements that are very hope promoting and help me connect to a feeling that is not something I can describe, but gives me this optimism for the future that's a little magical. And that's my story of hope. And Anna, would you give us our 1 minute recap?
I will do my best. All right. So let's see. Ed is wearing a sack and a cat bell, and he's apologizing to the crew and asking to kind of rejoin the ship, but he's actually not saying the words "I'm sorry," which Lucius is very upset about. And Steve asks Izzy to teach him the basics about how to be a pirate. They come upon a cursed ship, and there's a priest, and the priest says everything here is cursed. Jim hears that and runs away, but then Steed finds this really lovely, that he says, velvet suit, and he wants it, and then he takes it back on the ship. And the rest of the crew finds out that the suit is cursed. They all believe it's cursed. They want Steve to get rid of the suit. He doesn't want to. Let's see. Lucius is mad at Ed still and wants an apology. Ed says that Lucius can push him off the ship. Lucius does and expects to feel better, but doesn't. Ed and Fang go fishing, and Fang tells Ed that he never really appreciated all the things that he did as a pirate captain.
Fine.
Oh, sorry. Is that the end of time?
Yeah.
You did well.
Yeah, you did well.
You got a lot of the key points.
I think I got most things. Maybe. I feel like I almost got halfway through the episode, but whatever.
Did you have etymology today?
I looked up that hope. The root of it is about the expectation, approaching it with, you know, that it's going to happen, like there's going to be fulfillment and you're trusting with confidence in the future. And I think that has changed a lot in how sometimes people refer to hope now as the wish that something may happen. The etymology is, without a doubt, it is going to happen. So I thought that was interesting place to think about hope.
Right. And I was thinking, I like that, because when I was trying to think of the opposite of hope, I thought it's more like a dread. It's like both of them, I am confident the future is going to happen. And with hope, I think it's going to be positive. And with dread, I think it's going to be negative. And then through some thinking and discussion, I thought that hope is moving in a forward direction, like you're moving forward and you're trying to go in a positive direction. So I saw a lot of little things in the episode that were emblematic of something hopeful. Like anytime, even the titles, because I love to pay attention to how Our Flag Means Death is written in each episode. And this one is written in blood, and like they're cleaning off the blood. And this idea of like there was a lot of cleaning in this episode, there's a lot of fixing things, tidying up things. I thought those were really hopeful actions. If you don't have hope for a positive future, you're not going to tidy up, right? Training, Izzy spending time getting better. Very different than the Izzy we saw previously, where he's in despair in his room by himself. Now he's trying to move forward with his new life. I saw a lot of, and it feels like there's some like problem solving. We're going to try some things. And with Lucius, I feel like he's trying some things to go forward in a positive direction. And, maybe pushing him off the ship doesn't really help, but it's an effort. He's trying. He has hope to feel better. And yeah, Ed wants to make amends. He's not sure how. He's hoping for this better future. I'll leave it there and see what you ladies think.
I kind of wanted to, jump on that of what you said, Alexis, mostly because, so one of the things that I looked into is like the phrase like beacon of hope and everything. And I chose Izzy as a person of like a beacon of hope because so one of the things that I read, the definitions of like what people think of the phrase beacon of hope, it's just someone who inspires, guides, and brings hope to others. So I kind of thought of Izzy in that way, where he guides Steed, helps him out to become a better captain of what he needs to do. He's kind of the voice of the crew to Steed, so he helps guide the crew into help like having Steed understand what's going on with this curse robe. A curse is a curse, and once it takes hold, it takes hold. And he helps Lucius, tries to kind of guide Lucius into like, you need to just move on, you need to move forward. And so I kind of like, I really liked Izzy in this episode, and I really thought he was kind of the really good part in this like beacon of hope in this whole episode, of kind of even for the viewers, like we kind of want the crew to mend things, to move forward, and go back into their, like, this idea of going back into their hijinks and everything, and seeing all that and have them be happier and after everything that's happened. And I feel like Izzy is kind of a good point of showcasing that, where he is working like he was really, like you said, really the opposite of last episode. In this episode, he's immediately trying to do better. He's trying to train with one foot, and he has been just just a very positive experience throughout this entire episode. He was able to explain, like, tell Lucius that, everything that has happened with Ed, like, this is how I'm dealing with it, and it's better to just move on than stay in the past. And talking to Steed of how the crew functions, what their thoughts are on these things, and helping Steed in all these little ways of like becoming a better captain and everything. I think Izzy was like a good beacon of hope there with the crew.
I love all
Yeah.
those ideas. I hadn't thought about Izzy as like the example of hope, but I think you're absolutely right. I think he really is. And I'd never thought about your point about Izzy being the one who actually helps Steed be a better captain, because Ed said that was what he was going to do last season, and he never really helped Steed be a better captain. And just a short amount of time with Izzy, Steed becomes a much better captain. He gets the guidance about, what to do with the crew and the curse, and just understanding, like, if the crew thinks this is what's happening, then that's what's happening. Like, you just have to acknowledge that, even if it's not what you want. Whereas, Ed was kind of telling Steve, even at the beginning of this episode, like, oh, you need to be more forceful, and that's going to help show them who the captain is. And that isn't necessarily what works. And then that beacon of hope just makes me think, Evelyn, about this. My favorite moment of this episode is at the very end, where they're trying to give the suit to the different crew. And Steed, like, all of a sudden someone's going to come attack them, and Steed like fires a shot. He's warning, and he shows up as the captain, and he's really like just that person he always wanted to be. And what he does is he turns immediately to look at Izzy, and Izzy's like, good job, that he's looking for that confirmation that he was putting in place all the things Izzy was teaching him. And I just love that idea, because I never thought about Izzy as that person, again, who kind of is holding all the hope for everyone, including Lucius. But then also too, he's just a really good teacher, and he knows how to prioritize what's most needed to help someone become better based on where they're at. That's awesome. Anyway, I agree with you. Love Izzy. He's awesome.
Love Izzy.
And I think Izzy shows up as that beacon of hope too in helping Lucius, because I like this idea that you went to, that I did in my reading too, Anna, that hope is something that we look for with expectation, right? And anticipation. And I like that Steed voices he wants to be a better captain, and Izzy helps him with that. And Lucius voices in a pretty snarky way, because he's in a lot of pain, like his hurt and wanting to get over his interactions with Ed, who quickly became the Blackbeard version of Ed. And I think Izzy was a beacon of hope to Lucius as well. And bless his heart, gave him a cute little whittled carving of a shark. But also gave him that message that, like, these things happen and I'm going to learn from them and move forward. And I thought that was, I love that idea of him being a beacon of hope.
Well, and the whole crew looked to him last time as like, oh, our situation is not so bad. Izzy's really messed up. And if he can keep going on, then we can keep going on.
Maybe not, it wasn't going to be one of my vignettes, but something that I kept thinking about when, like, immediately when we got Hope, was that poem by Emily Dickens, that hope is a thing with feathers, and sings without a tune, and never stops, not at all. And then I love at the very end, that, like, she can hear this hope singing throughout these different parts of her life, yet never in extremity it asked one crumb of me. And I like that hope feels that way. It is like this universal love. It is persistent. It is there. It can't, like, we can lose it, but it's not going to die. And it's also not going to ask anything of us. Like, Izzy isn't asking anything in return to be encouraging and like a hopeful influence in any of these people's lives. And I like that we can do that for one another, that the universe and relationships with deity for people do that for them, and that communities do that for each other.
Yeah, and that makes me think about the part, the beginning, just thinking about community, about the crew together having hope that Ed's going to be different. That's part of welcoming or letting him back in, is this expectation, this hope, that he is going to show up in a different way based on, what Steed is kind of helping to support. And I think, trying to come up with ways to signify that to the crew with what he's wearing, and having the little cat bell so he can't sneak up on people. And again, like, helping them maybe feel a little bit more secure just when they're looking at Ed, like, okay, maybe this is a different person, like maybe we can hope for more. And I think that, I like that idea of, together as communities we can help support hope. And I think Ed also has hope that he can be different, or that he is going to be different, because he's having these interactions with, like, Lucius is like, okay, I'll let you push me off the ship. And then having a conversation with Fang of, like, because Fang asks, like, how's it going? And he's like, pretty good, I think. Like, I think it's going pretty well, not because he still doesn't necessarily understand what the crew has gone through, but I think he's definitely hoping that he can have connection to them, because he wants to be part of their crew. He really does want to be included. And I think that's leaving him more open to kind of be receptive to things that he may need to change or think about in a different way.
And I love that, Anna, because I think that is such a beautiful contrast for what Ed wants from even the last episode to this episode. I think seeing Button's transformation really makes it more of like, I don't want it to be like a Annie and Mary situation where it's us against the world and we watch it all burn and it's just me and Steed. I want to be like a community connector and to have my lover. Like I kind of want something better than that. And I think that that's really Button's legacy, like in his transformation.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important to keep in mind that this is on the heels of him seeing by himself, seeing Buttons transform and not being able to maybe explain what happened. And then what do you do from that? And what do you make that mean for yourself? Yeah. And I love that that then ties into the hope he has in a relationship with Steed. Like, again, not wanting it to be that, Mary and Annie experience, but wanting it to be something that is more balanced and that really embraces both of them as whole people, as opposed to things that they're trying to do that maybe not are not compatible with a long-term healthy relationship.
I like that there's fishing in this. Fishing feels like a hopeful activity. There's patience. There's not a whole lot you can do to lure a fish except maybe try some different things and wait. And I feel like that's kind of like a cosmic hope where you're hoping for some divine intervention or you're hoping for something that's out of your control. And then I also was thinking, kind of paradoxically, like the curse has power because of the beliefs that the crew have. Like they give it power. And I'm wondering if some hope is like that. Like we can give hope the power with our attention and our attention to our focus on it. And I feel like the efforts that Ed is making, like he's doing a little bit of both, right? He's hoping, he's fishing, but he's also putting forth some effort and trying to help them believe. And I don't know, just thinking about those two different kinds of hope.
Yeah, I agree. I also saw the crew's approach as maybe not hopeful in the way we might think of hope, but hopeful in the expectation of this thing is going to happen. And we're very confident it's going to happen. And so it does feel weird applying hope to a curse, but that is kind of, they have the same energy behind them, I guess. I do agree with. And that made me think of then Frenchie and Roach thanking the fairies of, this hope that we thank them and then they'll keep, helping the bread rise. And we got to make sure we thank the fairies. And so again, like having that same energy behind whatever it is you're doing. And then that made me think also too of Lucius at the end where he proposes to Black Pete of this hope of, again, the fulfillment of I want to have this new future with you, and I have that expectation that's going to be the best thing for both of us.
We noted like marriage and romantic partnerships feel very hopeful, right? It's like there are financial things where you partner yourself with somebody, but even that doesn't impact every aspect of your life like a romantic partnership does, where you're monogamous and like just going for it together. And their choices very much impact you. So it's a very hopeful act. When people start a partnership and families of two or more, and yeah, it makes sense that we come together as a group to support that too, because we're all rooting for y'all.
Yeah, there's some actions. It feels like there might be some actions that people can take to influence the success of something. Like I think of Archie and Jim and All in One Day wearing their garlic. Like they feel like that is an action that's going to protect me. And I feel like naming your child, like having a name that keeps going in your family. It's like the next generation. It's like I'm going to do this thing to hope for the future. I'm always curious when it is like a scene with two. I know it's purposeful, but Fang had to be the one that had that conversation with Ed, or Izzy had to be the one that had the conversation with Lucius. It's like there's something in that quality of character that they're going to teach them that lesson better than any other crewmate.
Yeah, they have this pressure cooker of a 30-minute episode, and they do have these very purposeful conversations and purposeful scenes so that not just moves the plot forward, but I think also deepens and complexifies each character. Because complexify is a word. I think I just made that up.
It is now.
I had a few
I'm going to say
questions.
something very predictable. When I was looking for hope, it's a huge leap to what I saw, but I saw communication as being an incredibly hopeful act. When you say what you want, when you claim your space, when you share your hardship with others, when you share your optimism and hope with others, when you share your skills and talent with others, when you seek to build community, I think that that is very hopeful. And before looking at the episode this way, I didn't see communication as, I saw it as like a tool and an indicator of healthy relationships, but I didn't see it as an indicator of hope. And it just kept coming back to me over and over in different aspects of the episode, that communication is a really hopeful act.
And sometimes it's courageous, right? It can be difficult to be the one that stands up and communicates, but you do that with that expectation. Like I'm going to expect that because I'm courageous, it's going to be better in the future.
Yeah, that I don't have a fully formed thought, but that makes me think of Lucius and pushing Ed off the ship and thinking like that's it, like that's the thing, and then realizing that wasn't it. And so again, maybe sometimes having this false hope in what it is that's going to actually bring you closure or healing or, you know, help you move forward. It's similar to that, just kind of brings up the idea of Steed in the suit, of just like having this thing is going to help me maybe be more like a captain. Like you could read it one of those ways of, like, again, having that finery that he had before, where it's again kind of maybe bringing the opposite of what you expect, where the, you know, the suit is really dividing his crew and it's causing a lot of chaos, which again, I don't know that Steed is very open to recognizing at first, because he has this thing that he wants. Similar to, I don't know that Lucius is really open to other ways to maybe find that ability to kind of process things and maybe metabolize his experience and then be able to move forward with Black Pete. And so again, like I think it's just interesting sometimes putting hope in the wrong thing, or maybe even just not hope, just thinking about it as expectation. You're putting expectation in something that ultimately is not as healthy and as helpful as you believe it is, but you still keep holding on to it a little bit longer than you should. I know I've done that in my life where I'm like, no, it's going to work. And it's like, no, it's not. Like you need to kind of be able to let go to then be able to move on and find that thing that will work.
It kind of leads to a question I had. I was thinking about Izzy and the story that he tells himself and he tells to Lucius about his trauma, right? Like Lucius says, it's, oh, you're just making up a story to help cope with your trauma. But I'm wondering how the story that we tell ourselves can provide hope. There's something about him changing that story that made it so he could go on and be like, oh, it kind of puts the onus of the hurt on himself also. It's like, oh, I was so foolish. I put my leg in the water and a shark bit it. Like it was just a stupid thing I did.
Yeah, I think there's an element in that. I really do like that conversation between them. I think what also that story also does is it helps Izzy preserve the relationship with Ed, even though he's not directly talking or interacting with Ed yet. That it's not this person that I care so deeply about shot my leg off. It's, oh, this shark came and bit it off. And again, you could say Ed is also the shark, you know, so it's not letting Ed off the hook in any real way. But again, I do really believe a lot in, just as a personal thing, just the stories that we tell ourselves about our experiences. And it can be good to have a story that's going to make you more cautious, or that really acknowledges your pain or the hurt or whatever it was you felt. And I think there is also a place for stories that are maybe more optimistic and that are looking for opportunities within hard situations to grow into that next version of yourself, who's going to kind of be able to integrate what you learned from this experience. And not to say like, oh, that just means be Pollyanna about it, or, you know, just kind of say everything happens for a reason, but like really thinking about how can you hold all those pieces at the same time and still create that narrative and that story you tell yourself about your experience. And I think like in this really condensed way, that's what Izzy is sharing with Lucius, which I just think is really beautiful and really interesting, and really obviously connects to Lucius really quickly because he gets what Izzy's telling him.
And I think that gives me hope too, and like a new perspective and way to look at it, because I have people in my life who are very internal processors about their feelings and their emotions, and they just are not, it's not natural to discuss things that they're processing inside. And Izzy seems more of that style. Later on, he has a conversation with Ed, but he's had a lot of time to work on it and process it, where he's able to say, like, I fed the darkness in you. I needed that. And so it is kind of like if Ed was a shark, like I was dangling my feet over the edge and I, served me right and I learned a lesson. But he's able to share that lesson and give a glimpse of that internal process to Lucius in a way that's very healing. And I think like this is fictional, right? But I think it was very healing to fans too, because if you look on like places that sell things, that little shark comes up over and over and it's like moving on, not moving on is worse. And it's just like, don't dwell in, like, I think when you see Lucius interact with Pete, when I am in that space where I'm isolated, where I'm feeling alone, where I'm feeling a victim, where something is just happening to me and I'm pushing others away, that is the opposite of a hopeful feeling to me. And I think Izzy's trying to give him that message, like making yourself isolated and dwelling in your yuck is worse than whatever other way you can pick yourself up and keep moving on in a positive way, not in a, I like what you said a lot, Anna. I'm saying it poorly, but like not in a denial way, but in a way that lets you heal partially until you can heal more, with that hope that you can heal more later.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that makes me think of something I hadn't thought about before, was how Black Pete addresses the fact that Lucius is not really including Black Pete's experience in this narrative of all the bad things that happened to Lucius, because bad things happened to Lucius. But then Black Pete is kind of saying like, but that you're not leaving any room for maybe what I experienced when I thought you were dead, or the fact that you actually are alive and we have this opportunity to be together again. And so I really like what you're saying about that isolation, or that really narrowing in, and kind of getting just kind of like stuck in the track of that only there's only one way to tell this story, there's only one way to kind of support this narrative. There may be good reasons for that, but it's also shutting off other potential narratives that you can weave into that experience. Yeah. And I do think that's important because, none of us really truly live in isolation. Even if we feel isolated, it's still always isolated in the context of, oh, I'm not being included with this person or that person. And so, yeah, maybe, thinking about how you can be mindful of the other relationships and other connections that you have that maybe are some way even tangentially connected to the narratives that you have about yourself. Yeah, super important.
Well, just thinking about that conversation where Black Pete invites Lucius to shift his attention, when I was thinking about those two ideas of like they give power to the curse through their actions and their attention, but Lucius or Black Pete invites him like, well, you can change your attention and notice this part of it too. And that, yeah, it might just be not so much hope, but we just choose that instead. Like we choose hope instead of despair, or we choose this instead of that. I feel like people are naturally, like, hope is alive, but it can be killed. But people are generally have this idea that they're inclined to hope more than not, than to kill their hope. I guess that's
I liked that idea of you saying like people are generally inclined to be like wired for hope, and you can have it snuffed at times, but there's that persistence there of hope coming back.
And that was part 1 of Our Flag Means Hope. Listen to part 2 for our sacred reading text and character blessings.